Hello everyone, I'm Vijeta B Hosamani. I'm from Karnataka and this time in the UPSC Civil Services exam 2023, I have secured the All India rank 100. So my UPSC journey has been a long one and today I want to share some of that with you. So in 2020, I gave my first attempt at UPSC, though it was not a very serious attempt, but I had studied quite a significant part of the syllabus and covered a lot of it. However, in that attempt, I could not clear the prelims. Now, I said that probably it is because I had not studied well enough and I blamed it on that. Next attempt was in 2021 and I was preparing from my hometown in Hubballi in Karnataka. And I was doing self-study for the most part and I had a group of 2-3 friends who were preparing along with me. And we used to have regular discussions on what to study and sessions on strategy. However, even in this attempt, I could not clear prelims. So now I gave it a good thought as to what is the problem with prelims. And the point was that I had done a lot of studying and my foundational knowledge was good enough. And I was doing well in mocks also. So I understood that maybe the problem is that it is UPSC that I'm not understanding enough. So in my third attempt, I focused on understanding the UPSC previous year questions. So now my focus shifted to understanding the exam pattern. And I did well on mocks. I did a lot of repetitive studying of previous year questions of prelims. And in this attempt, I was feeling that there's a good chance that I would clear prelims this time. However, on the exam day, again, though I was fully prepared this time, in my third attempt, I faced another obstacle, that is during the exam time, I probably was not as calm as one needs to be to clear the exam. Given that this is a multiple choice questions paper and you have to use a bit of your logical reasoning also while giving answers, and a calm mind always helps. And here is where I failed again in the third attempt. So now comes the fourth attempt, which is this one in 2023. So having learned my lessons from all these 3 stages, so now I was prepared well enough to clear the prelims. So in this exam, I focused on the mistakes that I had done and I cleared prelims. Now my mains preparation this time, given that this was my first mains, but I had been studying for 3-4 years now. So my focus area this time was as to how I should ensure that I perform really well in mains and score well in every individual paper also. So my focus this time was after the prelims that I have to start practicing writing mains as many times as I can. So my mains preparation mainly was oriented again towards looking at the previous year questions. So having learned my lesson from the prelims stages, I understood that like in prelims, even so in mains, I have to understand what UPSC is demanding, what is the trend that is there in different papers in every year, and especially in my optional subject, which was law. So having graduated in law, I had chosen law as my optional, naturally because of my interest in the subject. But even in this optional paper, there were certain trends that I had to analyze, and even though I had done significant studying beforehand, before prelims, now was the time that I had to spend focusing on understanding what sort of topics are being asked every year, what are the themes that are very important, and how do I prepare for it. So understanding the exams and different stages is one bit, but what I want to focus on here in my journey is what is it that made me stay in this journey, in this exam cycle. So it is a long journey and I had faced failures in the early stages thrice. Yet I was so sure that I have to clear the exam. So perseverance does play a part, but along with that, there is something else. So, and this something is, as you might have heard other people also telling you, as to why they chose this exam to begin with. Given my graduation in law and having done quite several internships during my 5-year graduation course, I had already explored various career opportunities that I have in my own field. And then this decision that I had taken was a well thought out one, which is why I was very confident that the civil services is my calling and I have to be in it. And this strong reason kept me going despite several failures and obstacles and despite the arduous journey, which was quite long. So with this reason, my only focus was on what are the mistakes I'm making and how should I ensure that I don't make them from now on. And it was never that maybe it is not meant for me. This thought never occurred to me. So probably this is something that you can take by watching this video if you're listening to me now, that before jumping into the preparation, first understand that this is what you want to do and be very, very thoughtful about it. Give it a very good thought. Explore your other options, your other career choices, and then come to the preparation, because then no matter what difficulties you face, you will only focus on improving and not giving up. Secondly, along with the motivation, another thing that I want to focus on during my preparation is that no matter that I was facing obstacle in the initial stages itself, but even then I ensured that the overall one whole year of the exam cycle, I was studying. I was studying as though I'm writing mains. I was studying as though I was giving interview, even though I was not. So this ensured that there is no gap in my preparation. So for example, I used to keep a timer on my table all the time, and I used to track my study hours and only productive study hours. So I used to ensure that I'm doing at least 6-7 hours of completely dedicated studying. And I also was a part of some groups for tracking study hours, like probably using an app like YPT or Forest, and ensuring that you are putting in the hours regularly. So this helps maintain discipline, and it also does another important thing, that is you are in touch with all the subjects. Even though you have faced a setback in one stage, you do not miss out on being updated on various different studying that you need to do for the upcoming stages of the exam. So because of this reason, I was well prepared for my mains, even though this was my first mains. So now coming to the mains significant part and writing answers. So having had a strong foundation and studying, now I was focused on writing answers for the mains. So again here, I focused only on the previous year questions mainly. And in my earlier attempts, though I had subscribed to a test series, I realized that that is not going to be helpful, because like in prelims, even here I have to evaluate myself and where I stand, and I am the best judge of that, because once you have a foundational knowledge, you will understand whether you are able to put that into words, whether you are able to complete a paper, whether you are able to do justice to any given question, and more importantly, whether you are able to come back from a bad answer and then give a good answer in the next question. So all these things only you can do. So here I focused on doing that by myself. Initially, I began by writing just 1 or 2 answers per day and analyzing what are my strengths and weaknesses in terms of answer writing style. So am I good at that? And secondly, in terms of content, am I having enough content? So once I realized that my answer writing style and the speed with which I write answers is good enough, and that my memory and retrieving of relevant information is good enough, the next thing I needed to do was ensuring that I have quality content to write in every answer. So in mains, out of the 20 questions, generally I noticed that at least 10 questions I would be able to answer very comfortably with good knowledge, sufficient knowledge. And of the remaining 10 questions, probably there will be 4 or 5 questions that I can answer, but maybe the quality will not be excellent. And there would be another 3-4 questions in which I had to use my ancillary knowledge and give an answer. So here my focus again was on ensuring that I do well for all 3 kinds of questions. And also here I had to develop a mindset that it is okay that sometimes I may not know an answer, but I still have to attempt it. Not leaving a question blank was not an option for me, and this was my personal strategy. For some, it may be the other way around, and they may choose to leave an answer and do well on the remaining questions. But with testing my own skills at answer writing and on attempting the full paper within 3 hours, I realized that what works for me is that I have to attempt all the questions. So again, in the 3 months gap that I have between prelims and mains, 1 month I spent in figuring out the strategy, and the remaining 2 months I spent on making my notes very concise. So I had some shared notes with my other friends who were studying, and these 2 months I spent on ensuring that I bring down those notes which were in OneNote to just bare minimum of 6-7 pages for each paper. So what comprised these 6-7 pages are just the very key concepts and key words. So every paper in mains has its own jargon. So for example, in essay, what you need are some anecdotes or examples. In GS 1, 2, 3, 4 also, there are different subjects, and every subject requires a specific jargon, specific type of examples or diagrams, flowcharts, and specific keywords. and also specific bent of mind when you're writing that answer. So this is what my notes comprised of during the last 2 months. And other than this, again, when it came to my optional subject, in the optionals especially, repetitive themes are a common feature. And so I focused mainly on understanding what are the areas in law that I need to focus on and prepare well. And even here my strategy was the same, that I have to have very short notes. So having short notes was a key in my mains preparation, and I focused solely on that. Next thing is, when I'm talking of preparation, it happens in 3 phases. As I have been saying, one is the yearly plan as to how I was studying continuously, and the second is what I do just before the prelims and the mains. So after having my basic notes, concise notes prepared, the third thing is, which is very important, is what do I do during the exam? Because this is one lesson that I had learned from my third attempt, that what happens during the exam, how calm and cool you stay during the exam is very important. And even in mains, the mindset that I took here is that anything can happen and you have to be ready. And anything did happen during my mains. I had given mains in a different center than my hometown. And while there, I had suffered from an allergic reaction. I had rashes all over my body, and that is how I had to give mains. But it was okay. I did not lose my calm because I had developed this mindset that anything can happen, but whatever happens, I'm going to give my best. And this mindset is not something that just comes. This is a cultivated mindset, because I kept telling this to myself that anything can happen, and you'll be okay despite whatever happens, because you have studied well and you have a strategy in your head and you're going to implement that. And that was all that matters. Everything else is just noise. So ignore that and focus just on the main thing, which is that you have to write this exam well to the best of your abilities and with the strategy that I had in mind. So this was the third, and I think probably the most important part of the preparation, that how do you approach the paper when you're actually sitting in the exam hall. So then after the mains, once the results were out and I had clear mains, so now came the interview part, and my interview was scheduled quite later in the interview schedule. So I had some time, 3 months time for preparation. So during this time, my main focus was that, given that this was my first interview, so I did spend quite some time trying to understand what goes on in the personality test. So I spent some time talking to my friends who had already given interviews, and talking to bureaucrats who had experience and could guide me as to, firstly, how to fill the DAF, because that is very important, and that is where your major focus should be when you're giving the interview. And secondly, how are you going to prepare whatever you have written in the DAF? And thirdly, how are you going to stay updated on the current affairs, and especially the current affairs that is relevant to your DAF? So after filling the DAF, I spent some time trying to do basic research on whatever the entries were there in my DAF, be it my hometown or my education, schooling, my achievements, leadership positions, and my hobbies. Other than this, another thing that helped me is having discussion with my peers who were also giving the interview. So discussions based on current affairs that were going on during that time. And also some discussions with my friends with respect to my optional subject and questions that can come from that, which was law. And here again, the discussions were one part, and another important part, which was probably more important, is self-evaluating. How am I doing here also? So like in prelims and mains, when we look at previous year questions, in the personality test stage, the previous year questions are the transcripts. So the transcripts of interviews of candidates who had given interviews in the earlier years, they become a good source for you to understand what can be expected of you during the personality test, what can be expected of a candidate who has some similar entries in their DAF. So be it with regard to your optional subject or your graduation subject or your state or even your hobbies, you can look at transcripts which have similar keywords, and then you analyze what kind of questions can be asked from you and how should you prepare for that. So how you should prepare means what is the depth to which you should prepare and what are the areas that you should cover. So the breadth and depth of every entry in your DAF is the starting point, and maybe for the interview stage that will be your syllabus. So given that you know the syllabus and you can have a fair idea of to what depth you can prepare based on the transcripts, you are set to go and you can prepare well. And then after discussion with your peers or in groups, then you can understand how you're doing on every different entry, how confident and how much knowledge you have on, say, your graduation subject or the current events that are going on or your hobbies. And whenever you find that you're lacking in content or you're lacking in confidence or you're lacking in delivery, you can improve on that. And for this, one of the methods that I used to use is either talk to myself in front of the mirror and ask questions and answer questions, or secondly, just record yourself answering a question and hear it again. So by doing this, you will yourself understand where you're lacking. Probably in delivery, if there's a mistake, you can understand it here and rectify it. And the next stage in interview preparation, of course, is giving the mock interviews. So given that I was staying in my hometown, I gave some online mock interviews. And then I went to Delhi just about 2 weeks before my interview to give some offline mock interviews in Delhi. Both online and offline mock interviews played a good part for me to be familiar with the atmosphere of giving an interview, of understanding how to be confident and deliver good answers in front of a formal board. So these definitely helped, especially the offline interviews played a very good part in one, making me familiar and also boosting my confidence when I was sitting in front of esteemed panel members and I gave answers in couple of mocks. Then I understood that maybe this is something that I can do and I should go with confidence, because the more confident I am, the better answers I can give and the better energy I would exude, which is also very important because this is a personality test and not just an interview. So all these things helped with the personality test preparation. And again, like in prelims and mains, your mindset during the personality test is extremely important again, because even in the personality test or the interview, anything can happen. They may ask you completely on your DAF, or they may skip that altogether and ask you something else. And you have to be ready for that. And you also have to be ready for any extraneous factor that may happen during your actual interview day. So again, with that mindset, I went that anything can happen, but I have to do my best. And I think I was lucky enough that most of the questions were based on some current events relating to my DAF entry, especially my optional subject and my graduation subject, which is law. So I could handle those well. But again, that mindset took me till the interview stage, and it helped me there also, because even during the actual interview, when I was asked some situational questions, I could handle them well just because of this mindset that I am calm and I'm going to give my best. So this helped me even during the interview stage. So finally, after about 4.5 years of journey, now that I have secured this rank, so the one thing that I kept looking back at during my journey is just this thing that me being a person who had decided that the civil services is my calling, and despite the initial failures, what kept me going is knowing that everyone has their own journey. So when I used to be on the other side of this and I used to listen to topper talks, one thing I kept telling myself is that, Vijeta, they have a different journey, they have a different background, and they have different circumstances, and they have done it this time and you will do it someday. But what you are going to do is going to be unique for you. So I think probably that is what I want you to take from this, that wherever you are and whatever stage of the preparation you are or whatever stage of the exam cycle you are, understand that your journey is just going to be yours. So whatever I say may or may not apply to you, and the same for every other topper who may share their journey. But what works is when you look at them and take away their mistakes as also their successes, and understand what can you apply and to what extent you can apply that to your own life. Because when I am sharing my strategy here or my journey, it's not possible for me to tell you what exactly happened during those 4.5 years, because it's not technically possible also for me to elaborate on that completely. However, I'm only giving you the highlights and my lessons from this. But it's not like I made a plan and then I followed it to the T. It's there were days or maybe even weeks when I couldn't perform well and I couldn't study well. There were days when my timer on my study table was not even started because I couldn't study. But then there are also days when I forgot the timer altogether and I studied for 12 hours or 14 hours when the exam was near. And also there are days when I thought that I can't do this at all, and probably I'm mistaken and maybe this is my calling, but I'm not up to it. And also there are days when I thought that, no matter what, I am going to do this. So there are going to be ups and downs, and there are going to be obstacles that probably you don't even know about at this stage. There are things that may happen that you have not even thought of. But if you know for sure that this is what you want to do, and if you work on yourself to ensure that no matter what happens, you have the confidence in you that you are going to surmount the challenges, that is what will keep you going. And you develop a strategy that is flexible. You may have a plan and it may not work out. No matter, then you try again and you make a different plan, and that plan will work. And if not that, then the next one. As long as your vision is clear and your goal is clear, the journey will be yours, and only you will decide what is the best strategy for you. But ensure that you're very sincere towards your goal, and you have to protect your dream. If you have dreamt that you are going to be in the services, that is just your dream, and it is completely on you to protect it, no matter what the challenges are. So with that, I just wish to tell you all the very best, and I hope that you are sincere towards your dream and that you accomplish it, and I get to hear you soon. All the best.